currently Project Ukulele. I don't know what they're going to call the final game. Hopefully not Project Ukulele, because, no offense, but that sounds kind of dumb.
Yeah, no, it's not a good name, but it's a good project name.
And as you saw before the music dropped, Steven and I had some things to say last time about the certain naming conventions.
I mean, like, we didn't know that it was gonna be like that. I mean, like I was thinking the instrument ukulele.
Yeah, I didn't want to have something just called ukulele.
Yeah,
that's dumb. And now it's called ukulele. That's
but it's less dumb because it's
dumb.
Because it's two characters' names, Yuka and Laylee. Yeah, which is like Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, and if someone had written down before Banjo-Kazooie came out that this is called Project Banjo-Kazoo, you'd be like, I hope it's not called Banjo-Kazoo.
But it's not called Banjo-Kazoo. It's called Banjo-Kazooie. And they're like two separate instruments and two separate people. And this is like Yuka. I don't know. I guess I mostly hate the spelling, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a name, and it's catchy, and people recognize it, and Ian likes it.
I think it sounds fantastic. And
I think it looks great. I don't think it sounds good still. I'm going to stick by what I said. It's still a stupid sounding name, but when you put it in the big, blocky, bold, frickin' Banjo-Kazooie style letters, and it says ukulele, and it shows the two characters, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks really good. That makes a lot of sense.
So, Steven likes the way it looks, doesn't like the way it sounds. I like the way it sounds. I like the way it sounds. I don't like the way it looks. And Ian just thinks it's fantastic.
Well, yeah, me and my giant glass of nostalgia over here are very, very happy.
Anyway, we're on Common Loot. My name's Eddie.
I'm Steven.
I'm not talking to you.
He's Ian. The quiet one is Ian. And we have strong opinions about Kickstarter games, apparently.
Well, first off, let's talk about how much has Ukulele made so far, Ian?
I think
as of this recording,
$2.6 something million.
That's a lot of money.
That's dollars or pounds?
Dollars.
I
checked for a while there. My phone was only showing me the pounds.
That's why I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
You complained to me about that. I was like, which one did you get?
Yeah,
because Eddie's phone was only showing it in dollars and mine was only showing it in pounds. I was like, apparently my phone is British. Okay.
That's a ton of money.
Entertaining. It's a lot of money. It's a lot more money than they asked for.
Yeah, it is. How much did they ask for originally?
500 or 750.
It was like it was either 17,000 or 1,700 pounds, which is not very.
It's definitely not 1,700 pounds.
It was not very much.
All right, we're gonna talk while you look that up, and
regardless,
that's a lot of money.
They were on pace to be one of the fucking top selling or top backed games of Kickstarter.
Until
something else happened. Also, while we've been gone, the other big Kickstarter that came out.
Yeah, for Bloodstained.
For Egavania.
Egavania, the new Castlevania style game.
So for ukulele, it was 175,000 pounds. Is what
that's way more than 17,000 pounds.
Yeah,
there was a 1 and a 7,
and then a 5, and then 3 zeros, not 2.
I forgot the zeros.
Yeah, or literally
there were 6 digits, not freaking 4 or 5. There were 6.
Well, whatever.
That's a lot of digits. But anyway.
Okay.
So then IGA comes out and he says, I want to make a new Castlevania game. These guys have money that they're willing to give me.
He built it a lot bigger. They both. One of the interesting things about both of these Kickstarters to me is that both groups told people way ahead of time, essentially, that the Kickstarter was happening.
Yeah.
Less so for IGA, but like Project Ukulele had a whole fucking like press conference announcement that's like, this is what we want to do. We're going to launch a Kickstarter to pay for it. This is when we're going to launch the Kickstarter. Keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Like people knew that was coming when it happened, as opposed to the usual Kickstarter model of something just shows up and people are like, oh, hey, this looks cool.
Right.
Egavania, people were certainly at least looking at it when he had swordorshield.com. And I know I got curious. I was like, what do I pick? And I assumed that it was just he's going to make one.
I thought it was Sword or Whip.
Or Sword or Whip, sorry. Of course, Sword or Whip. I always get... Because I think of Sword and Shield so often.
Yeah.
Sword or Whip, I went to the website, I clicked on Whip because Castlevania, and then I was like, I've never...
I would have chosen the magic staff and then dropped the shield. No one cares. My references
Kingdom
fall
Hearts.
on deaf ears.
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts is not relevant here.
Whatever. Anyways, so yeah, they did that. This is kind of a trend.
Yeah.
Former developers who want to do something that they loved kind of the same way that they used to do them, except for new and modern.
Yeah.
And it started with, I want to say it started with Mighty Number 9.
That's the biggest one. The first big
one. I mean, I guess technically,
I'd say Double Fine with Double Fine Adventure.
Yeah. Was
the first. Like Tim Schafer straight established the concept that a previously popular developer, but I felt like that was different. Like Tim Schafer had essentially been fired more or less. Like he'd left he didn't work for any major companies anymore.
Yeah.
All of his shit was struggling. Like he's historically made a ton of really fantastic games that have been commercially unsuccessful.
Yes.
And he seemed like he was making a genuine plea, like, I don't know where else to turn. Nobody wants to build this game. I really want to make another adventure game. This is what to do. This is the only way I can think of to do it. Again, the same thing happened with Mighty Number 9. I felt like I get the impression that Inafune really wanted to make another Mega Man game, and Capcom kept saying, no, we don't care. Nobody likes Mega Man anymore. And he basically bet on, yeah, they do, left, and was like, I'm going to do my own thing. I feel like the same thing with Ukulele. Like, they...
okay, this is where I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you. Because the first two, I'll agree, they did feel more genuine. But with Ukulele, like, this was going to happen whether it was backed or not.
Yeah, they just straight up said, we're making this. It may be on a smaller scale and it may take a little longer, but it's going to happen.
Yeah,
this is
the
start of our studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys had money from when they were with Rare. These guys could have invested their own capital.
That's true. They're really successful. Tim Schafer doesn't have enough money personally to make
but these
studio.
Exactly. But these guys were really successful.
To be fair, I would say that they had a lot of money. It's not like they're...
No, I wouldn't say that they're, like, rich necessarily. But I think they had enough money as a group that if they put their money into it and built something, that they could show that to a publisher and a publisher would pick it up and do the rest.
They were more or less working around the clock with very small teams and working for less than the... minimum amount of what those guys normally make in that industry.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, they still had the money to survive. Like, it's not like they were struggling. You know, like, yeah, they weren't making as much money as they were when they were working for Rare, obviously. But it's not like they didn't have enough money to feed their family, or they didn't have enough money to, you know, invest in more stocks if they wanted to, or something like that. Like, these guys have money. They're okay.
Yeah.
And they could have invested their own money and bet on themselves. And I'm guessing that if people didn't back the Kickstarter, that's what they would have done.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Ukulele was going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I mean about the Ukulele people is that sure, you're right. They could have backed it themselves, but they seemed to genuinely be interested in only putting their Kickstarter so they could make the bet. Like, just saying, look, the more money that you guys give us, the more we'll make. The more game we'll make. Like, we're getting money so we can put it into hiring other people besides us to enhance the game beyond what we can do ourselves. Where IGA is the first one that kind of bugs me.
Yeah, IGA, like Ukulele a little bit is kind of bugs me, but like IGA's is kind of just, I don't know. It's almost
Now, there's like I kind of have a flip flop on this one for two reasons. One, we've talked before, and we know Konami is turning evil. And we know why I know, and I totally support IGA leaving Konami because
as do I.
All indications are that Konami is just going to mobile. Like I almost feel like I wouldn't be surprised if MGS5 gets canceled at some point. But even if that does come out, like they don't seem at all interested in making real video game, quote unquote, real video games anymore, as it were. And I totally understand somebody like IGA leaving. He's like, I don't want to be a mobile game developer.
Yeah, I want to make
real games. And so I totally understand him going like, I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to make this game Bloodstained, and that I'm really excited about that. That's fucking awesome.
It does look like a great game. I'm not gonna.
I guess what bugs me is, yes, he's been upfront about saying that he has somebody who's willing to fund 90% of the game, and the Kickstarter is just to show interest. But couldn't you prove interest somewhere else? Like, do you have to get money from other people to?
Yeah, like couldn't you have done polls and stuff like that, and market research and you know the things that companies used to do? Or
frankly, I think that they like even doing the Kickstarter. I think if they had just put all of the backer rewards especially the front ones, as literally just will you pre-order this game? If you pre-order it, that's enough to show.
Yeah.
Like just set the price point of getting a digital copy at.
Were your numbers supposed to be going?
Okay, is it working again? Okay, that's better. I was gonna say set the price of a digital copy at $15 and a physical copy at $30 or something like that, just enough to essentially pay for your copy of the game like you would when you bought it normally, and that's a fairly straightforward way of saying how much interest there is in the game. Like, are people gonna buy it? Yes or no?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you put it at that much, then basically, they're just pre-ordering the game. It's the same thing that GameStop does in order to figure out how many copies that they should order. Yeah. Like, maybe it's just like, hey, buy the game early in advance. Sure, it's 2 years in advance, but, whatever. It shows how many copies you should print, at least, minimum.
Yeah. I don't know. So, I think still one of the biggest things that bothers me is not knowing who the big company is.
Yeah, especially since like the big company apparently didn't care enough to put it on Nintendo consoles, right?
Right, like, or somebody, we don't know why, but I know Ian is really upset, right?
I'm pretty miffed about it.
Like, why are you upset about it, Ian?
Well, one, Castlevania just has a very, very long history with being on Nintendo. Two, all the Castlevania games that IGA has made, with the exception of Symphony of the Night, and I think one, what was it, like a port on PlayStation of like another
Nintendo, like a PSP one.
Yeah, were all on Nintendo consoles, and a lot of which were on handheld systems. What I mentioned earlier about $3 million being for Nintendo consoles, I meant just the Wii U.
Yeah, that's not even for the 3DS.
Not the 3DS
yeah, a lot of the really, really good Castlevania games were handheld on Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, if Konami had done it, I would have been really excited if they were like, we're going to do a Wii U exclusive, or our next game is going to be a full console release for Castlevania. That would be cool too.
Yeah.
It's great that they're doing it now, but to Ian's point, like, let's say for the sake of argument, it was this other company, and the deal was they are being honest. It would cost a lot more money to develop for Nintendo than for the Wii U separately because of the different architecture than it would be to just do across the Xbox One, PS4, and PC. So that's why they didn't do it, is because this other company said, we are willing to pay for this game, but we're not willing to pay the extra money for that port because that port is too much more complicated.
And basically they just didn't see the value.
Why didn't they then make the straight up upfront Kickstarter be, we're doing the Kickstarter both to show interest in the game and because this is the only way we can get the money for the Nintendo console, and we know you guys want it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, wouldn't that be a better way of like showing that you appreciate your fans?
I don't know. I mean, I watched the Kickstarter video. Iga doesn't really strike me as the person who does appreciate the fans or really care what we think.
I'm not saying that he is. I'm just saying, like, if he does, if he did,
they
that's
did
what
do
I
that,
would. Like, if it was me, that's what I would have done.
Oh yeah, if you're asking me if that would be a better way to go about it, then yeah.
Like-
I mean, I think so, but
Like that would.
know,
That would.
you could
feel
also sit.
appropriate.
You could also sit on a chair and slosh around a fancy glass of wine. Because nothing sounds relatable better than just swishing wine around and be like, no Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to hand that is probably one of the other things that kind of irks me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, about Bloodstained, is that, yeah, their whole launch thing was kind of cool. It's entertaining. Like, there's some entertainment. The video is funny and kind of entertaining, but it's also kind of like, the ukulele one felt better because it's really straightforward. It's very heartfelt. Like, a lot of the ones that we've had before that we really liked, like
You could feel the passion in these old developers being like, look, I'm a developer. This is just what I do. I want to make these games for you guys.
Yeah.
Iga comes up and is just like, well, hello there. I have this fancy glass of wine and I'm looking at these portraits. I'm going to be
you should give me the money to make
Yeah.
the game that I've always wanted to make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not
And it's
the
like,
game that you guys want, but the game that I have always
Why would I
wanted
want
to
to?
make.
Why would I want to give that guy money? Like, he's sitting in chairs that are way better than my stuff. He's got probably way better alcohol than me. Like,
Well, I mean,
and he's got better hair. Jeez.
The only answer is because he's totally right, and you do have the argument that he said, which is all these publishers say they don't want to pay for it because they don't believe that we as gamers want another 2D Castlevania style game, and he says no, people do. And if clearly we do, because so many, like, he's gotten so much money that even with all of the fucking bad PR and bullshit, didn't he surpass? Hasn't
It's
he
past
already-
ukulele, yeah.
It's already past ukulele.
They have less time than ukulele, less backers, and more money.
Yeah.
And more money.
Yeah.
Significantly less backers, by the way. I want to say they have like. Well, I might be forgetting zeros again, but I want to say.
Then don't say numbers, Ian. It's okay.
Don't say
But they
numbers,
have.
it's
They
okay.
do have.
But they have
Ian is
more.
correct.
They have more backers, fewer backers than ukulele, and more money.
It was between 10,000 backers and 10 backers. Between that,
Somewhere in that area. Yeah.
And based on the number of people that I saw on the internet complaining with Ian about how fucked up it was that there wasn't a Wii U release or some Nintendo release for this game, the
think
fact
they'll
that
hit
it's
the
now
3 million.
a goal is going to get a lot of people. I'm sure there's still going to be people who are so principally fucked and pissed off that they didn't do it in the first place that they're going to still not give money to it, but I think that more people are going to be like, whatever, I want it on my Wii U.
That's true. It probably is. But okay, so I think I'm going to transition this into another part, though, about these big Kickstarters, these big former professional developers that have, studio experience.
Yeah.
Is that what Kickstarter's really for now, though? I mean, sure, Tim Schafer did it, and Tim Schafer brought popularity to it, but like...
You mean, is it for sipping on your glass of wine and demanding money of people?
Exactly. Like, yes. Is it for that? Is it for the people who have the money, these big, gigantic budgets, to have these huge set-piece performances for their video?
Yeah.
Or is it for the little guy, the guy who's just like, I've been working really hard by myself in order to make this game, and I need this much money to make it happen so I can show all of you guys this awesome thing that I'm doing?
Yeah, we're getting to the point where we're getting to the games versions of Zach Braff making that stupid movie follow-up to Garden State.
Hey, that movie was actually kind of cool. But
I don't know.
But I
never saw
agree
it.
that
I don't care.
it was a good movie, but it's one of those things where you shouldn't have had to give him money for it because he's got his own money.
He
can afford it.
He's fucking Zach Braff. He made Scrubs. What do you like? You don't need a bunch of extra fucking
Yeah,
money.
he could have financed it himself and been just fine.
Yeah. So that's kind of the question. I mean, IGA probably doesn't have as much money as some of these other options. IGA probably doesn't have nearly as much money as the ukulele guys
teams.
did.
That's true.
But the ukulele guys didn't come out saying we can't afford this. They came out saying we're definitely going to make this. We can totally afford it, but
With your help, we can make it
bigger and better. Which is, I mean, that's still earnest. Like, it's straight. We love this so much that we're going to put our own souls and our money, and that says a lot about it. The fact that they're willing to put their money behind it,
Yeah.
as well, says that they're not saying we're going to put our time, you give us the money. They're saying we're putting our time and our money and our souls into this. Please join us
Even
in
with
the awesome that is ukulele.
even with them though, like, should they be using the same platform as these small people is my thing. And do you think that it's a good thing or a bad thing that they're doing it?
I think it's a double-edged sword, like almost everything here.
I think basically the question that Steven seems to be asking is between ukulele and Bloodstain and like the millions of dollars being raised by these games, how many other little guys are being stepped on that aren't going to get their game funded because everyone else is shelling out money to
Exactly.
you guys sipping on wine?
How many Dimension drives are getting trolled and screwed over at the end of their Kickstarter by people who are giving to major developers that have a track record and can convince a publisher? Like, the biggest benefit to Kickstarter is you're right. The biggest value to it, to me, is that somebody who doesn't necessarily have 30 years of experience and resume and portfolio, so to speak, on their system can go and basically build what they can on their own, and then when they need help, go to the internet and say, look, this is what I've got so far. With your help, I can take it the rest of the way. But at the same time, I think it speaks to the inherent problem with Kickstarter, which is the reason Kickstarter was started is so that people who can't get funding from the traditional method, a standard investor,
Right.
can go and ask for smaller amounts of money from more people more easily.
Yeah.
And the inherent problem with that is that the reason that investors don't want to give these people money is because they are unproven. If I, as just a regular Joe Schmo, go to Bill Gates and say, I want $1 billion to solve world hunger, we know Bill Gates has plenty of money. He can easily throw $1 billion at solving world hunger. But
how are you going to
why is his throwing me $1 billion going to actually make any progress on that? How does he know I'm not just going to throw it away on cocaine and booze? How does he know I'm going to even remotely efficiently affect that kind of change? But if I spend 30 years in the Peace Corps and I've been doing this on no money, and I come to Bill Gates and I say, look, I've got this really good idea for how we can make major changes in the world in a positive way. This is what I think we should do, but I don't have the money to start it. Then Bill Gates can say, okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
With Kickstarter,
That
a lot
first
of people
guy has
thought
a chance, though.
the first guy, people think that with Kickstarter, the first guy has a chance, but and early on he did, until people realized that that's stupid.
That's true. A lot of these smaller developers can't deliver. And it's unfortunate.
And that's why even amongst the independent guys, the Kickstarters that go really well are the Kickstarters where they've built a lot of the game. I backed Chasm as a game.
What's Chasm?
Chasm is the pitch is just the same as somebody else, as a lot of these unproven ones. It's 2D sort of Metroid style roguelike procedurally generated dungeon crawler and stuff. Like, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah,
I like that. But when they did the Kickstarter, they had a functional prototype of the first dungeon. They had made a working game.
Yeah.
It wasn't all of the game, but basically they said, we have built the core. All we need is some funding to keep us going while we build the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And so you can believe that. You can believe that these aren't just people who say, I have a cool idea for a thing,
Yeah.
and have no idea how to take it from
And don't have any
step A to B.
functional actual programming or artistic ability.
Yeah, they have an artist. I liked the art style. They had a
Programmer.
They had music. They had a programmer. They could clearly do the thing. And so I believed in that. And that's kind of what it comes down to. And so obviously the veterans have the same advantage
Yeah.
when coming to Kickstarter
That's
that they
true.
do when going to a regular investor.
That's true.
Is
And-
they can say, this is all the stuff I did before.
Yeah, like you can see it. I mean,
Ian's got the same thing. Like, how when you saw that that the people who made Banjo-Kazooie were kickstarting a Banjo-Kazooie, like, you were stoked, right?
Yeah, of course. I was super
How would
stoked.
you have felt if instead of saying the people who made Banjo-Kazooie are making a Banjo-Kazooie, like some guy named Jeffrey Stevens came on and was like, I'm a huge fan of Banjo-Kazooie and I really want to make another one, but I can't. So instead, I'm going to make this other game. I'm calling it Yooka-Laylee, and it's about a bat and a lizard, and it's going to be a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. And then you're like, what do you know about Banjo-Kazooie? And he's like, I love the game.
that's true.
And
That is
he has
true.
no
I mean,
visual assets. He has no experience. He's never made a game before. You don't know what he's got going on in his history.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to give that guy $3 million to make a Banjo-Kazooie spiritual successor? Or do you want to
really.
give the guys who made Banjo-Kazooie $3 million to make a spiritual successor to
I mean,
Banjo-Kazooie?
I might give him several $1,000s to make potato salad.
You know what?
Because he could probably make himself potato salad.
You're right.
That one I believe.
I totally, and you know what? You're right. I believed that guy was going to make a potato salad, and he was humble about his request. He asked for $16. He's like, I'm going to a potluck. I need some money for a potato salad.
Oh goodness,
It's going to be a nice potato salad.
Yeah, I mean, there are good and bad sides to Kickstarters. Even with the large ones. Like, another good benefit of the large ones, though, is that a lot of people who wouldn't look at Kickstarter are going to go to Kickstarter's page. They're going to just go to Kickstarter.com and search up, the game that they want to back, this big title. But in the meantime, they might also see a couple of other titles that are similar to it that people have been working on, that these smaller developers maybe wouldn't have got some exposure.
I will say that's the biggest thing that I think that the big guys are lacking that the smaller guys do. Games like Chasm and Crawl and the smaller games that have gone through Kickstarter, a lot of them, the actual indie scene will say, hey man, our game is really cool. If you like our game, if you backed our game, you should check out these other 3 games that are made by our people that we know who we think they're doing great work, and we think they're awesome games too.
Yeah.
And IGA's not doing that. IGA's not saying go check out these other 2D platformers.
Yeah, they're not really part of the indie scene. Like they're getting money from people who are fans of the indie scene. But to be honest, I don't think that a lot of their backers are necessarily people who are a big part of the indie scene. I think that they bring people to Kickstarter who otherwise wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Because it's just, that's the nature of it. People know these guys. They don't.
And I can say there's at least one really solid example of the fact that being a previously existing major developer doesn't automatically give you free reign to have whatever money you want.
That's true.
On Kickstarter, as demonstrated by Formula Fusion, which is made, like, that's exactly the same story as Yooka-Laylee. The people who made Wipeout for Sony got laid off because Sony shut down the franchise, and they still wanted to make Wipeout, and so they came to the internet and said, we really want to make a spiritual successor to Wipeout. We're going to call it Formula Fusion. And they showed visuals, and they showed fucking ships and stuff, and it looks basically just like a clone of Wipeout. And they hit their goal, but their goal was only 35,000 pounds, and they hit 80,000. Like, they wouldn't even have met Yooka-Laylee's original shoot, like aiming target money. Like,
that's true. But I think, I don't know. I can't really be mad at these guys still, though, because obviously they're bringing something to market that people are willing to pay for. that people want. I mean, Ian wants ukulele.
Yeah, I think what's important about Kickstarter is that this is a really, really good way to show that like these games and these genres are still relevant and that people do want them. Like,
Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't Microsoft say something about?
there's been some rumors going on that Rareware is actually hard at work on reviving an old game, and a lot of people are thinking that it's Banjo-Kazooie, a real one this time.
My concern about that is that, as we've basically been talking about for the last however 20 minutes, all of the important people from Rare who made Banjo-Kazooie don't work at Rare anymore. They work at Platonic Games.
Yeah.
And they're making a sequel a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie right now. Already. And
The difference between your previous example and this is that the people making this game actually make games. They don't just ask for money.
And they're a
Potato
studio
salad.
that's owned by another big studio.
No.
So these, that these guys want to make games.
The games that Rare has made, this group, like, no offense to them, I understand they're working really hard, they're doing what they can do,
and they're doing what they're told to do.
but what they've been told to do by Microsoft so far has been make games like Connectimals, which is not, like, I'm sorry, I'm not saying that they're incapable of doing it, but
It's not proven.
I'm going to go all Phoenix right on you. Objection. And my evidence would be, this is actually really bad evidence, Project Spark for Conquer, because they were like, oh, we want to make Conquer, but we also want to sell Project Spark, so why don't we just do a DLC pack for Conquer and Project Spark and be like, hey, have some Conquer stuff. And then they actually did a DLC Conquer story. I think they called it like His Other Bad Day or something like that.
Another bad day or something like that.
Something like that. And it's all like Conquer assets made. I think it's made in like a Unity engine or something like that.
Right.
I mean, whatever engine they use to do Project Spark. But it all looks and feels like Conquer. They got all of the old voice actors. All of the writing is still there. Mm-hmm. It feels like Conquer, just made in a kind of weird engine.
yeah.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, I think it does kind of, as Ian said, show that people backing stuff on Kickstarter has more of an effect than just that one game.
Yeah,
I
it's got a
mean, people putting the money
rippling
towards
effect.
ukulele kind of ripples on to show people that people want 3D platformers.
Yeah.
You know, this is actually kind of comes to another thing that, like, I'm going to segue here because one of the interesting other side effects of Kickstarters and a weird sort of pseudo market solving the problem itself thing to this is that the first batch of Kickstarters that came out in the wake of Double Fine Adventures, a lot of them were genuine indie games that are really old school retro styled and like these small teams doing things in their own way. And kind of crazily, a lot of them have now been getting money from the actual big three publishers.
Yeah.
In Sony and Nintendo in particular, Sony paid for Axiom Verge before he even got a chance to kickstart it.
Yeah.
Nintendo has been putting out a lot of big indie darlings that are bringing people to their consoles on the eShop.
Shovel Knight.
Definitely Shovel Knight is being a big one of them.
Yeah.
And the kind of a weird thing is, interestingly, Kickstarter, which started as a way for people who can't go to the big developers and convince them that they want to make the game, has proven to be a good impetus to make the big developers who have all the money pay those same people.
Yeah.
Who now can't go to Kickstarter anymore because it's overrun by people who are way bigger than they are. So, like, interestingly, by virtue of the fact that these big game developers are going to Kickstarter, instead, it's freeing up the money from the people who actually have it and have it to invest specifically in games, projects, to do so on smaller teams. And the nice thing about that is, if you've got a 3-person game team, like fucking Axiom Verge is a 1-person team, I guarantee you that the budget that Sony has for like crazy risky whatever projects, if you gave it to Iga, he'd spend all of it. if you give it to these small indie darlings, you can go 30 teams for the same money.
Yeah, and you get 30 games, and chances are at least one of them will be awesome.
Huge fucking success. And the one that comes out not being so good, you just give it out for free on the PlayStation Plus.
Yeah,
and
or-
at least people, like, I'm sorry, Ars Awakening is not a fucking good game.
No, it's not.
But
Wait, what is it?
But it's a free game.
it's a free game. Ars Awakening, that game, we played a little bit of it the other day.
I don't remember.
It's that weird
little
fucking
witter
fuzzy
wolf.
creature that like slides around, and you remember you have separate
got weird controls.
and running controls.
yeah.
And you
no.
can shoot a thing and then
Stop.
teleport. Yeah, you know the
Stop.
you know the
Stop
game. now.
talking. I'm trying not to remember.
But
You know the game I'm talking about.
But
though.
what also that does is it allows something like what's happening this week with the indie bundle to happen too. Because Nintendo invested money in these indies, these little ones that, you know, they weren't sure whether they were going to succeed or not, and a couple of them did.
Elliot Quest.
Yeah.
Elite Quest is great.
And now they have all of these titles on their system, and they can send some to Humble. And Humble can make a Humble Nintendo bundle. The first console bundle that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And from Nintendo, because Nintendo spent the money already. They've already made profit off of these things. Now they can provide them to Humble and give money to charity.
This is the first time anything like this where a separate digital distributor that is not the console maker has offered any kind of deal on a collection of games.
Yeah.
By the way, is anyone else like completely shocked that Nintendo was the first of the big three to do this?
Yeah, if you'd said if Humble Bundle had said one of the big three is agreed, and we're going to announce next week that we're going to have a Humble Bundle with the console, I would have said Sony.
I would have said Sony. I would have said it would be a bunch of PS3 and Vita games.
Yeah, I would have said it's going to be a huge bundle, exactly, of classic PS3 and Vita games, and maybe they'll be bundled with PlayStation Now rentals for themselves or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But I never would have said Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo. That was total curveball.
Totally out of left field. I woke
really
up today, I looked at fucking Kotaku, and it's like, guess what? New Humble Bundle from Nintendo. And I was like, that's got to be a lie. I misunderstood you. Nope, Nintendo eShop right there. And it's some good games. There's some really good games on there.
Yeah,
I'm
and it's for
probably
Wii U and 3DS.
Yeah, it's across both systems, showing that, like, really demonstrating there's a few games that are only on one or the other.
Yeah.
And there's I think at least one game is on both. I actually have it pulled up here. Yeah, Ollie Ollie you can get for both, and SteamWorld Dig you can get for both. I'm gonna probably buy it for Mighty Switch Force.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, and I hope that this succeeds and does really, really well.
Yeah,
I really want this one to do well, because it could prove to be a viable thing for Sony and Microsoft to follow.
Yeah.
And
hell, it could prove to be a thing for Nintendo to do again.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
like,
nice.
for the console manufacturer, for one of the consoles to do this is spectacular. It's something I remember when we were talking about a long time ago, before we even started doing this podcast, we would talk about what the companies need to do in order to succeed and get people to switch from physical to digital.
Right.
And
This
why
is a
it
big
is,
way.
yeah, and why it is that Steam is able to succeed digitally with PC stuff. And it's because of this. It's because deals like this that you can't get generally with consoles.
I think one of the really big if I was Sony, what I would do as a follow-up to this, I'd give it some time to settle in. Probably after E3, maybe even at E3. I'd see if I could set this up for E3, so that I can announce that a bunch of full native releases that didn't sell as well as we wanted, things that were disappointments like The Order, are going to be in something like this and go, look, we've eaten the loss. We didn't make as much money as didn't sell to budget.
Yeah.
And as it was, they're just going to eat the loss. But if you do something like this, and you can say, even there's one, like if you put into the pay $10 or $15 or more, the Order 1886,
I'm buying it.
people are gonna buy that.
Straight up, I'm buying it.
Fucking done. And then you can throw a couple of indie darlings and some other, like Sony's got so many games they can put into something like that. Honestly, that's what I would do if I was them.
Absolutely.
So keep in mind, if they do that, I called it first. But the other interesting thing to me about this is that it's kind of hilariously cyclical. Nintendo gets goodwill for doing something awesome like this. People respect Nintendo. Other people might look at Nintendo as a more viable, real gaming console these days for something like this. And I don't know if you noticed, but the charity they're supporting is Code.org. Code.org, for those unfamiliar, is a charity whose general mission is to get supplies and resources and educators to people who normally wouldn't have access to the ability to learn to code at a young age. So if you live in an affluent, well-paid neighborhood that's got lots of access to computers in their schools and stuff, a lot of elementary and high schools and junior high schools are teaching basic coding skills now. But if you live in a low-income inner-city neighborhood, that's just not even remotely feasible. So Code.org's deal is taking these technologies and bringing them to people who would otherwise not access to them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What potentially leads that around is that by funding this Humble Bundle, you are giving money to the possibility of the next group of cool, independent and successful game developers who would normally never have had the chance to become game developers.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know.
Awesome.
There's just something cyclically awesome about the idea of Nintendo doing that.
You know what it sounds like to me?
What?
It sounds like a power play to make everyone forget about how angry they are at Nintendo for everything that they did involving YouTube.
Oh, that's
And-
true.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, just really...
You know, I actually forgot about that while we were talking
Just-
about this.
Yeah.
You're right.
yeah, right.
I was all happy with Nintendo.
I mean,
how they were kind
No,
of...
I'm still happy with them. This is an
This
awesome thing.
is a great thing for them to do, but you're right, Ian.
But yeah, just, you know, the whole YouTube thing was pretty bad. Just totally disrespecting modest, really, really excellent YouTube channels such as Uncommon Loot.
Like ours.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys haven't, search up Uncommon Loot on YouTube. We have a couple of our Shadow of the Colossus videos up right now. And we have plenty more to come. Like,
Yeah.
we have a bunch of stuff recorded that's just a matter of editing.
We actually last night recorded a few more episodes of Shadow of the Colossus.
Yep.
I'm working on some Bloodborne videos.
We've got some
we've got a
Enslaved
couple
videos
of
come up
Enslaved
soon.
videos. Hopefully Ian and Steven, that's kind of an Ian and Steven thing. Hopefully they can get some time to make a couple more videos of that soon.
Yep.
So we can stay on top of it.
And we're working on a bunch more stuff. So go to our Facebook page and let us know what you want to see us do.
Also, for what it's worth, most likely we're going to start uploading our podcast episodes to YouTube. So if for whatever reason you prefer listening to them there, you can find them there. You know, just put us in your subscription feed and you'll be able to see us through that as well.
Yeah, which would be awesome.
Speaking of YouTube separately, though, one other kind of interesting announcement that YouTube made was they're making some changes to their streaming services. I'm trying to remember specifically what they had, but basically it's along the lines of like. Obviously, YouTube is trying to compete with... Not
Twitch.
obviously. Recently, YouTube has started to try to compete with Twitch. And they... Twitch has the established existing user base.
Right.
YouTube is adding some sort of annotation live interaction functionality that is much more interesting than anything Twitch has.
Well, yeah.
Function. Let me see if I can find this.
Anyways, while Eddie looks for that, Ian, we just saw a movie this week, didn't we?
I think so.
We did.
We did.
I know we did.
We
So good.
saw Mad Max Fury Road. What did you think of the movie, Ian?
More like Mad Max Furiosa Road.
That's true. I thought it was interesting that Furiosa was really like the main character in that
Yeah,
movie.
she really was.
Like, it was not Max. It was definitely Furiosa.
Jokes aside, Furiosa was an excellent character.
She was
and
awesome.
That
She
was a
kicked
really
ass.
good movie.
Fucking super baller. I fucking that movie has me so pumped. All like the aesthetic, the style, the tone. The
It was a
nature of
2-hour-long
Car chase.
car chase.
Just throws out all conventional action movie tropes and structure and just said, nope, 2 hours of this, and it's going to be great.
And it was.
And
It
it's
was
totally
so
was.
great.
To be honest, though, it really wasn't 2 hours of just straight car chase. Like, I know a lot of people are kind of pitching it like that, but there really was a surprising amount of character development.
Well, I feel like what they did was they did a great job of character development in the chase.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't stop the action to do the character development. It happened during.
Yeah. Like, it's amazing. Some of the things that really struck me that were really entertaining and interesting and cool about the movie were, I think Ian's getting at, there were definitely still downtimes. But the downtimes were still intense because while they were stopped, the chase was still going on.
Yeah, the chase never really stopped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the chase, like they got away for a little bit, so they had some time to be stopped, but the people were still coming after them.
The suspense is always present because you always know that they're being chased.
You've got Max still chained up and fighting and fighting with the girls, trying to get himself free and all this stuff. But the whole time that you're seeing that, you're like, hurry the fuck up, just get in the truck and fucking go and deal with this later. You've got dudes on your butt.
Yeah.
Things like that. Things like the fact that we don't actually like. There's a scene in the movie where Max leaves his like little group of band of buddies.
Yeah, spoilers,
And
people.
Not
really, but
you know that
kinda.
Max gets the trailer shows that Max gets to be a team member of the group of the quote unquote good guys. There's a scene where he leaves to go deal with some shit, and you don't see it. He just walks off into some fog, and then later, and then you see what happened. You see not even the aftermath of it. You just see like it goes away.
Yeah.
And then it moves on. Like you don't get to see Max being cool or doing that in that scene. It's not important.
Yeah. So, after seeing how awesome the movie was, you any excited for the game at all?
No.
No.
So I'm confused. Is the game a tie-in to the movie, or is it just a generic
No.
Mad Max game?
It's, well, no to both. They're saying...
It's not a generic Mad Max game? Because that's not what I've been hearing.
Okay, so I haven't played it, and none of us have so far. It's not supposed to be a generic Mad Max game, and it's not a tie-in to the movie.
It's just its own Mad Max.
It's just a
thing.
Mad Max game. It's a game based off the franchise, not based off the movie.
I was going to say, I don't think any game is supposed to be generic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens,
I mean,
but I agree with Eddie. I'm still not excited
I don't know.
for it.
It's weird because it hits all the right aesthetic notes, but I guess the thing is the movie set me up for like the movie has such a crazy awesome balance of the just super awesome crazy spectacle. Like the fucking dude who spends the whole goddamn movie bungee corded to a giant set of speakers playing guitar that
shoots a flamethrower
forever with giant ass drums on the back of the whole thing. Just right. That's the whole that vehicle's whole job is just make fucking awesome rock out music for everybody to do their thing on. That's just cool. Like the visually, and it's just got all that stuff. But at the same time, it's got a lot of really interesting things to say about society and the nature of apocalypse and what happens when things don't go the way you want them to. And like, it has all the crazy excitement, but it's also really deep if you want to look at it.
Yeah, it does. It does have some very, very deep elements to it if you really pay attention.
And that's the depth is what made me fall in love with the movie. And
yeah, it still would have been entertaining even without the deep undertones to it.
but then it's just Fast and the Furious Apocalypse Edition.
Yeah, but with the deep undertones, it turned into something
really good.
special,
Something really amazing.
something to me that I felt for a long time that video games were kind of a bigger and better form of entertainment than movies, but with Mad Max, I feel like they showed that a movie can still have the same effect as video games have now. That a movie can be on par as an entertainment option with the types of stories and action and like just tenseness that a video game generally has.
Yeah.
Because you don't usually feel tense in a movie. But in that movie, like, there were times where, like, I was sitting there and I was watching the movie and then I took a deep breath because I was like, oh my God, I wasn't breathing. Like,
Yeah.
I was waiting for something to happen.
It's funny that you should put it that way because I feel like there's a lot of journalists and critics right now that are trying to debate the opposite, that that games can make you feel in a way that movies can.
Generally, that is how I feel. I will agree. Generally, video games can make you feel a way that movies cannot because you're more invested in the character. But I think that this movie breaks that norm. I think this movie shows that movies can still hit you in a way that you can't get from a video game.
Well, this is something that I have a lot of thoughts about as a game when I thinking about game design, in the sense that the absolute best game design does more in the gameplay than a movie could ever do in the narrative.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about in our Bloodborne playthrough. So if you watch that, you'll get to hear more about what I think about that, because we're kind of running out of time. I wanted to say what YouTube is doing for streaming to compete with Twitch is they're using their awesome Google powers to enable the ability to, one, run it in an HTML5 player as opposed to Flash, which is more efficient on your computer. And is probably what is allowing them to do variable speed playback, so you can skip backwards on a live video stream and then catch up at 1.5 or 2 times speed.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Like when watching TV on a DVR.
That's pretty sweet. I'm down with that, totally. But yeah, Mad Max, Fury Road, go see it if you haven't. I loved it. Let us know what you guys think on the Facebook page or on the Twitters. There was one more topic that we wanted to talk about.
Witcher graphics, all you PC people are being fucking dumb. CD Projekt Red has spoiled you more than any other fucking game company has ever spoiled any human being in the history of fucking video games, and you're still bitching about it. Fuck you for being entitled little bitches.
That's usually my job, but well said, Eddie. Well said.
I thought we were going to talk about boobs. I came for the boobs.
They're in The Witcher. They look fantastic.
They do.
Because CD Projekt Red did a fantastic job modeling everything in that fucking game.
Yeah, they did. And they're patching it. They've already come out with 2 patches in less than a week.
Yes.
Like,
both of which made the graphics on PC better.
My God.
Relax.
The game looks fucking amazing. It plays amazing.
Your PC probably can't even run it at full spec anyway.
Yeah, it is the new benchmark.
There's like 4 people in the world who can actually run proper Witcher at high spec.
At max. Yeah.
They have built their computers dedicated for this purpose. And I understand. Those 4 people who spent $8,000 on a computer can be a little irritated, I guess.
Is one of them Iga while he sits sipping his wine waiting for his millions of dollars on Kickstarter?
Probably. That's
he
why
probably used the Kickstarter money to buy that computer.
to buy that computer. No, he used all the money he's made on all the other Castlevanias to buy the computer. That's why he's going to Kickstarter. Is because again, he's been a producer on all these games, so he needed the Kickstarter money to pay other people to make an IGA-vania game while he plays The Witcher.
Which is what you guys all should be doing right now, and I think what I'm going to be doing in just a few minutes.
As soon as he can get back to it.
Yeah. As soon as these guys will finish talking, let me go.
Ian, what's your last bit?
I was going to say, how egotistical is it to call your game an IGA-vania game?
Egotistical.
It's egotistical.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We're Uncommon Loot. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/uncommonloot and give us a follow and a like.
And now on YouTube, unfortunately, so far, just by searching for Uncommon Loot at YouTube, we'll let you know if and when we get youtube.com/uncommonloot.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Cross your fingers. Let YouTube know that you want us to do that.
Yeah. Let them know by subscribing.
But yeah, check out our YouTube channel. We've got some good stuff there.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.